Mic check.
Mic check. Mic check.
All
Mic
right.
check.
Mic check.
Michael check. Mr. Michael check. Paging Mr. Michael check. Please come to the podcast.
You're funny too.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the Rad Dad podcast. Today we're talking to Chris Ballew, who is better known as Caspar Babypants, an amazing Seattle musician for kids who's released, about 20 albums so far?
I'm up to 14.
14 albums.
My goal is 20.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
You are extremely entertaining. People love you.
Thank you.
You're very popular. Let's see, your last albums were called Sleep Tight and Fun Favorites.
Yeah.
We'll link to them in the show. We've already listened to them. They're awesome.
Thank you.
And Chris has 2 kids, a 17-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old boy.
Very good. Do you
there we
work
go.
for the FBI or something?
I do. I moonlight for the FBI. So we're going to talk to you about what it's like to raise kids as a musician, the lessons you learn, and everything in between.
Okay. I love it.
Step 1, Chris. You were previously called the go-to man for toddler entertainment.
Yes.
Tell us what's it like to be popular and what path you took to get here.
Wow. Well, the path was, in a nutshell, I always knew I wanted to make music that was honestly who I am, that was not sort of a artifice or a put on. I didn't want to maybe put on a costume or metaphorically and literally to do my music. My whole life I wanted that. I wanted like transparency with my music. First step was I had to figure out who I am, which took a long time. Second step was to make music that matched that person. So I rose to fame with the Presidents before I really fully realized who I am and what I prefer in life and, you know, what I'm all about. So I rode that crest of fame without really knowing what I was experiencing. And it got disorienting, and I really wanted out. And all the while I had that voice saying, like, you know, keep going, keep trying. This is great, but this isn't really what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be doing something else. Keep digging. So I broke up the Presidents and dug and tried all these different things, and then finally settled on music for kids as the end of this long path of experimenting and trying things. The destination was this simple, innocent music for kids and their parents. And I feel like I've arrived. So what's it like? It's like, for me, it's like an arrival to a destination that I've been on my way to my whole life. And it's very relaxing to have finally, like, figured it out.
Huh.
Yeah.
So how did the name Caspar Babypants come about?
That was actually an old nickname from Boston in the early 90s. I was in a jam band, or like an improvisational band with Mark Sandman from a band called Morphine. And he's the one that taught me how to play a 2-string guitar, which you probably see behind me here. And he and I had a band where we improvised all the songs live in front of an audience, and it became my stage name. I never liked Chris very much, so I changed my name to Caspar at one point when I lived in Seattle. Some people who I met during the early 90s only still know me as Caspar because they met me as Caspar. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't get the name change to stick, and then I was in Boston for the winter, and I had no winter hat, and I went to a food co-op that had sort of a clothing exchange bin for poor people who couldn't afford clothing, which I was one. So I pulled out this pair of hand-knitted baby's pants and put them on my head for a winter hat, and they fit perfectly, and they were super warm. And the kids in my neighborhood started calling me Baby Pants. They're like, yay, Baby Pants, where you going, Baby Pants? And so I put Caspar and Baby Pants together. So in the early 90s, I was Caspar Baby Pants. And then when I made the kids' music, I kind of scratched my head thinking, what am I going to call this stuff? Chris Ballew, make up some name. And then I remembered, oh, wait a minute, I'm already Caspar Baby Pants. I'll just use that.
Did you make any kids' music in the 90s while being the Caspar Babypants for the first time?
No, not on purpose. Because my arrival as Caspar Babypants has been this long, curving road, I wrote songs the entire way that were trying to be kids' songs, but without knowing what I was doing, I tried to make them grown-up songs. So now I'm going back and listening to all this old stuff and being like, oh yeah, that was trying to be a song I wrote in 1986 or whatever was trying to be a kid's song. In fact, on my new record that I'm working on now, I have a song that I wrote in, what was it? Yeah, 86. That was trying to be a kid's song, but I didn't know what that was at the time. And so now I'm, sort of chiseling it into shape to be an actual Caspar song.
Let's jump around a little bit. So is this how you get inspiration for kids' songs you're writing right now?
Some of them, I mean, they come from all over the place. My wife, Kate, is a great inspiration. She is funny. She says things backwards. Her little slightly dyslexic mind just mixes things up. She's the one that said, "My flea has dogs," which turned into a song. She said, "I'm too dirty to love." She's like my Ringo. Ringo's the one that said, "Oh, it's been a hard day's night." And John and Paul were like, "Song." Ringo's like, "Tomorrow never knows," and the song. So she's my Ringo. So that's one way. Another way is I swim around in the waters of public domain and look for old folk songs and traditional songs and prison work chants and stuff like that, and use those as the foundation to write a brand new set of lyrics for an old melody. Another is going through my old history of thousands of bits as a songwriter who records every little idea and finding little diamonds in the rough and growing them to see if they can turn into songs. And the other is sometimes songs just fall out of the sky and they just fall right into my brain. They just bzam. Like 9.99 on my second record, I wrote in as much time as it takes to play it. It just vazam, there it was. And then some of them are kids. Little kids will email me with ideas or come up to me at shows and have ideas, and so I'll write a song with a little kid or from the inspiration of a little kid, and so those are a bunch of ways.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Does it take a while?
It can. Like, again, sometimes I'll write a song and record it and it's done the same day. Sometimes it's 35 years. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Generally, it takes a good year for a song to, because I work alone. So I have to be my own critic, and to be your own critic, you have to forget about all the hard work it took to make the thing in the first place and kind of just hear it for what it is, and that takes time. So I like to give a song, although I've got this song, Disco Hippo, that I just wrote, kind of. The song had completely different lyrics, and I just scrapped all the lyrics and wrote a whole new set of lyrics to it. But I think I want to put it on my new album, even though I'm not going to let it sit for a year.
Can we get it super quick?
Oh, yeah,
preview?
a little Disco Hippo.
Saturday night, Sunday night,
Disco Hippo.
Monday night, Tuesday night, Disco Hippo.
It's an earthquake.
Wednesday night, Thursday night, Disco Hippo. Friday night, every night, Disco Hippo. Rhinoceros can stomp his feet and make a booming sound.
Okay, that's all you get for free.
Oh, man. Actually, speaking of free, I saw a lot of your music is available on your website for free. So
Yeah, some of it. Well, which website? You're talking about Caspar?
Caspar Babypants, yeah.
Yeah, some of it at the bottom of the page, there's a player. I take 2 songs from each record and just put it on that jukebox. So if you want to hear stuff for free, you can. And it's just on random, so you can just check it out.
It's still pretty awesome of you to do that, because then, people who can't afford music can just play it on their
Yeah, they can play
computer,
it. There's a little
phone,
free
whatever.
jukebox,
Yeah.
yeah. And then if you're interested in other stuff I'm doing, there's chrisballew.org, and there I've put up tons of previously unreleased bands, like experimental bands and old recordings and cassette tapes and stuff for free.
Yep. And we'll circle back to that, because
Right
I
on.
just found it, and it's completely different from everything you have on Caspar Babypants.
Oh, yeah. It's more of what the journey sounded like to get to Caspar Babypants, kind of.
Okay, so that was the process. Is it Chris currently, or the process of Chris becoming Caspar?
No, I don't make any of that kind of music currently. A lot of that's old 4-track and 8-track cassette stuff. And although the current part of that website is the ambient music, so I make music for meditation, and that I do currently. That's like another way I make music these days that's not Caspar Babypants. That's not even songs, really. It's just soundscapes. Gives me a break from the verse, chorus, solo, bridge.
Yeah. Is that how you do it?
Something, yeah. Every song's a little different, but you know what I mean. Like, it gives me a break from making sense, and just allows me to make music. I figured out a way to make this ambient music that's kind of like It's an algorithm. It's a setup I use in Pro Tools that allows me to put elements in and then randomize them and then listen as if I'm hearing it for the first time. Like I'm not in control of everything that happens when I make the ambient music, so it's like I'm a witness and a creator. So it's kind of cool. I love making that stuff.
So speaking of the journey, let's talk about Caspar, the child, and kind of what your childhood was like and how that impacted who you are today.
Well, it was great. My childhood was super idyllic, really fun, really happy. I had a younger brother, 20 months younger, who we got along great. Endless days playing with Legos. On a day like this when it's cloudy and dark, we would play with Legos and chatter, like make up songs and rap back and forth about nonsense. It kind of like informed how I like to use words. I like to twist words around and make them funny and make alliteration and stuff like that. And that's where that really came from. So yeah, it was just like play, I got to bask in the joy of being playful for a long time without stress. So that's kind of what I'm trying to now offer in the form of music to parents, like a moment of ridiculousness and joy and energy to share with your kid.
Actually, do you think you have more kid fans or parent fans?
Probably more parent fans. Actually, I don't make kids' music. That's the big secret. I make parents' music, but there is no genre called parents' music. So I'm stuck with the moniker kids musician.
So we were thinking you make music that parents can also listen to, but really it's the parent music that kids also enjoy.
When I'm sitting here at the helm here and I'm making decisions, I'm really making most of them for the parents.
I gotta admit, there's been times when I'd get in the car and you'd be playing. I'm like, cool.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
I know. And I actually every so often pluck out one of my old records and just put it in the car and listen, and I love it. I'm super into it. So, as I should be. I made every aspect of it, so I should be digging it. But yeah, it's parents' music. Maybe I should strike out on my own and start the genre,
Yeah, just
Start fresh.
I don't see
There you
why
go,
not.
iTunes, put a new category, parents' music.
You mentioned at some point that as you were growing up, you also noticed that playing music would make your mom feel happy.
Yeah, it did. I connected playing music with making my mom really feel elated. And she had such great, joyful energy, and it was really great to see that come out in her. So I kind of connected playing music with helping people feel good, And that became a just real big cornerstone of why I do it. I'm trying to give the gift of a silly, ridiculous visual and a hooky musical element that people can have, even if they never hear the song again. Like if you hear it once and you walk away and you've got it in you, that's the idea. Is I want to give like a little gift to people.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And so now you found yourself as Caspar, but while you were in President, and that was a long time, right? So you kept searching for yourself. It wasn't quite the thing you wanted to do, but you kept doing it. Do you think that's kind of something people should do, like persevere where they are? Or once you feel that what you're doing is not what you are, you should just jump right out of it?
I guess it's up to each individual and the circumstances. Like I think I put myself through some unnecessary stress in the early days of the presidents because I couldn't reconcile the little messaging in my gut and my head saying, move on, keep looking, this isn't it, with the external experience of being on MTV and, thousands of cheering fans and all that stuff. I wanted to experience all that stuff. At the same time, I was being sort of, I was having this feeling like this is not my place. I need to get out of here. So it was weird, but I let that go on, I guess, as long as I could. The first time I quit the band, though, I quit very emotionally. I quit like late in '97, and it was like a very messy emotional experience. The second time the band retired, it was a very neutral, educated, self-aware, peaceful decision. And so that was very different. I think if you can extricate yourself from a situation that you know is not what you want to do, but do it without emotion, do it without being hot-headed about it, then you will be set up to grow and find your new voice or your new way better, because you won't be stuck in an emotional state.
So while we're in the emotional state, let's talk about another decision another state you extricated yourself from. But before it, let's take a quick break.
Let's take a break to hear these messages.
Okay. Back to the important stuff.
Yeah.
Where
Rad
are we?
dads.
Rad dads.
Radical dadicals.
So not only did you quit the band at some point, you also quit your marriage.
Yes.
Divorce happens to be a really popular request on Rad Dad.
How do you mean? Like talk about divorce?
Talk about divorce.
Yeah.
Divorce moms and dads wants to hear what people have to say,
Awesome.
how to go through it.
I
and
got a
such.
lot of things to say about that. Basically, it's the same as what I was just saying about the band, is that my first wife and I had 4 great years and then started to slide into friction. And we had 6 friction-y years. And during those 6 friction-y years, we were searching for the truth about our relationship. What's the answer? Yes, we're supposed to be together, and this is just a little difficult. Or no, we're not supposed to be together. And we went to couples therapy for a while, but really it was when we split off and did individual therapy that we figured it out, because we worked on each of ourselves and then figured out whether that self wanted to be in it. And that process led to a neutral, unemotional, led out of sort of a big emotional, angry time into a neutral, unemotional realization that we were not supposed to be together. And so when we finally decided to divorce, I slept like a log that night. I mean, it was the sleep of the gods because it was so peaceful. And for her too, you know. Actually, we went to see Paul McCartney on our 10-year anniversary, and that night in the hotel room we broke up. Because Paul McCartney was singing all these songs about love and love, 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 and when we got there, I was like, you know, do you see us going on? And she was like, I don't see it. And I was like, I don't either. I was like, so we'll do it then. She's like, yeah. Flipped the light, went to sleep. So you want to get to a point where you're neutralized. That's, again, important if you're going to quit something, to not be frozen. Because, you know, if we broke up 4 years earlier, we would have been frozen in an angry state, and it would have really hindered our ability to raise children. You know, she and I are totally on the same page about how to raise the kids, and we have lots of talks about parenting philosophy and what's happening with them, and we agree on all that stuff. So, and you know, her mom, my first wife's mother, and Kate are good friends. Kate's friend, you know, Kate and Mary Lynn get along great. The families all blend together, and it's like nothing's changed, really.
Right, for the record, Kate's your second wife.
Kate is my second wife and final wife. Yeah. Yeah. So, and you know, it was like, I think when you're involved in something that's not quite right, you really have to get out in order to find what is right. You know, like whether it's a job or a person or a creative situation. So,
How old were the kids at the time?
let's see, that was 2005. So Josie was 5 and Augie was 8. Yeah.
What was it like explaining to your kids?
Pretty good. Pretty good. You know, when you do that talk, if you're going to do that talk, you really want to stick to the facts. Mm-hmm. The fact is, your mom and I don't love each other the way we need to stay together. We will always be your parents, and you will always be loved and taken care of. That's really it. That's the end. Anything else is just answers. And then do you have any questions? Mm-hmm. And then if they have questions, great. If they don't, if they're just, you know, I remember saying it to them and they got kind of, you know, welly, teary-eyed and everything. And then we just went downstairs and played Legos, and the process started.
Did they see it coming, or
I don't know. We didn't ask them. Mm-hmm. You know, we got professional advice about how to do it, and that was the advice: be factual and loving. And then, you know, because they need to hear that you've still got them. You know, that they're not going to be left out in the cold at the Kentucky Fried Chicken parking lot.
So ever since you've been co-parenting with your wife, that
Yes.
sounds like a very Seattle thing to do.
Is it?
Co-anything in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does it work? How do you co-parent?
Well, we communicate a lot. We're open with the kids. We have a very serious philosophy with the kids that they can tell us anything, although they don't have to choose to tell us anything at all. But if they have any issue or problem, they can always come to us, and we never talk about each other behind the other one's back. So I don't disparage her in any even subtle way, and she doesn't disparage me in any subtle way. And so that way we never put the kids in a position of defending one or the other of us, or feeling like, well, if he's saying that about her, he'll say that about me. And just keep communications super open. And because we were neutral when we divorced, we can really do that. So, Marilyn and I have had really good, deep conversational check-ins over the years that have been great, because she knows me like, very few people do, and I know her. So keeping each other as a resource for a sounding board and for friends, and the process of parenting and focusing our concepts and philosophies about that has been really good. So it's just, you got to talk frequently and openly.
Yeah, it sounds like a very logical, constructive approach to divorce. And especially for somebody who's a musician, who I assume is an emotional person, having a logical divorce is kind of a conundrum, but it sounds like you guys figured
it just
out.
took time. It took time. It took time, and it was a big stepping stone towards self-awareness for me. It didn't do the job, but it moved the ball towards self-awareness. Why did this happen? How did I make this decision? How did I just allow life to happen in a way without really deciding what I wanted? And that was a big step towards self-awareness, which in turn became a step towards musical clarity and Caspar Babypants, like finding the way. In fact, my first wife, Mary Lynn, is as much responsible for Caspar Babypants as Kate is, because Mary Lynn was the one that made up the song "Run Baby Run" in the car in order to keep.
Great song.
Thank you. I mean, thank her. She made it up to keep Augie happy in the car, and which has become my purpose in a lot of ways. What I think about when I'm recording this stuff is the car. What's it like in the car? Is that, is this instrumentation going to help that atmosphere? So she made that song up, and it worked. Augie would just go like all relaxed when she sang it, and so it became kind of the cornerstone. And then Kate's artwork is what really pushed me over into wanting to make a body of work that kind of came from the same planet that her art comes from. And she and I currently collaborate on songs and ideas and books and stuff like that. So Kate, I couldn't have done it without either of my wives. My wives.
Fancy.
Double wife. I'm double wived and happy about it. I love double wifing. That sounds terrible.
This podcast is for kids.
I call them big wife and little wife. Kate's the big wife. Marilyn's the little wife. So.
I don't even know where to go from here.
I know. Everybody needs a big wife and a little wife. It's awesome.
Actually, another divorce-related question, since it's so popular, but if you're someone who's just getting married or just married, right, how do you recognize this early? Because I've talked to some dads who got divorced, and they said, I should have divorced like X many years ago, but we waited, and then it just blew up in their face.
Right.
Based on your experience and the counseling or professional help that you got, is there anything people should really look out for to know that, hey, maybe they made the wrong choice early on? And
I guess a way to think about it would be that you have a cognitive intelligence, which understands that this is a microphone and that's a video camera and this is a podcast. And you have an emotional intelligence, which is taking in the atmosphere on a much bigger scale that can't possibly be put into words, but you're integrating all the colors and the atmosphere of where you are all the time. It's a big vocabulary of emotional experiences. As you are beginning to be in a relationship, the drugs that kick into your body, the endorphins, the chemicals that get released in a new relationship, completely cloud your cognitive judgment. So, and as those wear out and you hit, you kind of get into the plateau of being a couple, that's when I think you should start to check in with your body. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel relaxed around this person? Do you feel like you can be yourself? Do you feel like you can say whatever you want to say? Do you feel yourself editing yourself? Or reserving your opinion or tiptoeing around to please that person? Those are indications to me that you're not in the right relationship. If you feel this, the second way I said. If you feel the first way, where you're just relaxed and you can say anything you want, and you don't feel any like knots in your stomach or stress in your body, then you're in good shape. That's how me and Kate feel. Yeah, so it's fantastic to find that. It is amazing. So yeah, I would say be aware of how allow your body intelligence or your emotional intelligence to be part of the dialogue inside yourself that informs whether you're in the right place or the wrong place. You know it. You know it. I knew it for years that the president's was not quite right. I knew that my first marriage was not quite right, but you just have to wait until that feeling is so clear that you can't ignore it, I guess.
You told me last time there's a really good book that people should read that talks about quitting.
Oh, yeah. It's called The Dip. I don't remember who wrote it.
Seth Godin.
What's that?
Seth Godin.
Seth Gordon?
Godin.
Godin.
Yeah.
Seth Godin. Okay. So it's a book
Sorry,
called...
Seth, for mispronouncing your name.
That's okay. Yeah, that book is fantastic. It kind of turns the idea on its head that winners never quit, and basically says winners quit all the time because, like, I just started to write a book, and after it was going to be about songwriting, it was going to be interview-based. I did one interview and immediately realized it was a podcast, not a book, that it had to be more free-form than a book. I then looked out into the dip, which is the amount, so you're excited about a project and you're on this like plateau of excitement, and then to get it to be established and to really be the thing you're going to invest in, you look across what's called the dip, which is the work that it's going to take to get to that, whatever your golden carrot is, your podcast's 100th episode or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then you check in with yourself and you say, do I want to go in that dip and do that? And my answer was no, so I quit. So yeah, the book says that a lot of times the answer is going to be no. So expect the answer to be no over and over and over again and be okay with that.
Yeah.
And allow yourself to quit. Don't be like, well, I bought all these office supplies, so I better start a business. Like, you don't need to do that if you don't want to.
Right. Allow yourself to quit.
Yeah. Allow yourself to quit.
Right on.
Quitting, winners always quit. That's the bottom line.
So Caspar music is something you haven't quit yet.
I can't, man. The songs are just the volcano of tunes. I gotta deal with it.
Is there ever a time where you just want to put the guitar down and give up for a while and walk away?
No, there isn't. And there was, but I read another book.
All right.
Called, what is it called? Can't remember what it's called now.
We'll link to it afterwards. But
hold on. Pause. Edit. What is it called?
Beep boop, beep boop, beep boop.
Oh, it has a dirty word in it, too. Oh, I got it. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
It's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Beep. It's a great book. It basically says that human beings have problems. Every human being will always have problems. I was going around for a few years previous thinking like, I just need to get my life so there's no problems. I don't want any problems. I just want smooth sailing. In fact, in The Presidents, there was a song called Zero Friction, which was about that idea. And it was torturing me because, like, if I had emails to answer about booking shows or, the mechanics of running a record label and booking and playing shows and all that stuff got really annoying to me. And I read this book. And the book basically turned me on to the idea that if you find something you do give a beep about, it will generate problems. And your job is to love those problems because they support what you give a beep about. A lot of people choose things that they don't give a beep about, and get annoyed at the problems that circle around those things, or things they can't control, or things that are out of their sphere of influence, or things they don't really want to be doing. Those problems that circle those things become really annoying and can cripple you with anger and stuff. So you find what you love. The problems that circle it are good problems. Love your problems. So I've learned to love my problems, and that's helped me. It's helped me feel like it's even more sustainable than I felt like it was before.
Refreshing.
Yeah, it's great. That's a great book. I gave it to my kids for Christmas. Give them a head
Are
start.
they giving less beep these days?
No, yeah, they're teenagers, but no, again, it's like a little push, like figure out what you do care about, kind of thing.
We'll get into how you're raising your kids very shortly, but one thing you called Caspar music fantastical, life, and folksy.
Yeah.
What do you think it teaches kids when they listen to it?
Teaches kids. I don't think it teaches them anything. Not one single thing. I am very proud of the fact that there's no educational value in my music. You'll never learn how to count to 10 or do the alphabet or tie your shoe or brush your teeth or any of that stuff. Nothing. It teaches absolutely nothing because I am singing in a vocabulary that kids already have. Like one of the main reasons I focus on 0 to 5, 0 to 6-year-olds is because they are enlightened human beings. You know, when you're born, you experience the world as an energetic place, right? And then you learn names for things, and things start to kind of settle and make sense, and there's organization. But before that, it's just this crazy, surreal, energetic place. And even after, when you get language, like they know the parts of the world, but they don't know how they go together, and that makes for surreal, weird juxtapositions that don't make sense, that are hilarious. And that's the language I use in songs. So I'm really learning from them how to exist in that space and trying to coexist with them in that space. So I'm not teaching them a darn thing.
That's cool.
Nothing. I love that. That was one of the things that I figured out early on that made me super happy because I was like, yeah, I just get to be around that energy and swim around in those waters, and it's great.
I don't know how to describe this, but when we came from your concert at the aquarium back home, well, first of all, my mom, who's, here to take care of the kids for a while, was super excited. She went and took a selfie with you. She was like, this guy's great.
I remember that.
But at the same time, my daughter, who is almost 3 now, we were listening to Frozen Penguin.
Yeah.
For days on end after that, right? And she made up her own lyrics on top of that
that's
song.
cool.
And even though it's not educational, I think it's so embracing for the kids. Like, it's so welcoming.
Yeah.
That it just boosts her energy.
Yeah. I mean, you might accidentally learn the words hat, scarf, jacket, sweater.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't learn anything, but I really feel like learning is for school and that music is for fantastical, impossible, magical, thinking.
Well,
there's lots of people that want to teach kids how to count to 10. I don't need to be one of them. I'm gonna have some water.
please do. Just one
Out of my
second.
KEXP bottle. See?
Yeah, I saw KEXP stickers all over your car. Are they your biggest fans, or what's the deal there?
They're an amazing radio station in Seattle that has a global reach, and one of the DJs, John Richards, is a good friend of mine, and he's a parent, and he really supports the Caspar thing, and I just eternally am grateful because, it's hard to get widespread coverage for kids' music on a real radio station. I'm on Sirius XM radio and KEXP, and that really helps get the music all over the world.
Do you get paid from that at all, or that's just for promotion?
I think so, yeah. There's a company called Sound Exchange, and they collect royalties for radio now. So, yeah.
So speaking of getting paid, right? You actually mentioned that Caspar is pretty profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's perhaps
I
not a multi-billion-dollar business, but
you know why?
It pays the bills and life goes on.
I have no overhead. You know how much it costs me to make a record?
How much?
It cost me 32 cents to burn a reference CD and play it in my car. Once I bought the laptop and this couple things and a keyboard and some speakers and a mic. So the overhead is ridiculously low. It literally costs me like $4 to make a record.
So you're the ultimate small business
Yeah. Yep.
with
Yeah.
great returns.
Yeah,
There's something to learn here.
I love high margins.
Yeah.
And that's why I make the records with cardboard sleeves, because they're cheaper to make. There's less garbage involved. Kids can chew on them, and the margin is nice and high. And I can at live shows, I sell them for $10, including tax. So they're for 20 songs, and I've never raised that price since I started in 2010. So it's kind of a thank you to parents who make the effort to come to the show. You can get a discounted CD. So yeah. Well, it's still though.
You might run into the tiny problem that you don't have a CD player for some of us.
Yeah, it's starting to happen. Yeah, new cars don't have CD players.
Nope.
Yeah, and you know what?
New computers don't have CD
I'm
players.
gonna be okay with that. When that happens, that's totally fine, because that wall of CDs also comes with its own set of problems that I love.
It's a beautiful wall.
I've got to ship them, I've got to distribute them, I've got to haul them to shows and sell them and count them in and count them out. But they're such cute little things. I can't, I'm not going to get rid of them prematurely. People still buy them. I have a distributor in Portland, and we're still selling tons of CDs.
And you're actually selling records, like old school.
Yeah, I just
Vinyl?
actually got it today in the mail. I just saw it before you came over. It's called Fun Favorites. So the idea with vinyl is my albums are a little too long to put on vinyl, as they are. So I'm not going to release each album on vinyl, but I'm going to release a series of sort of my most popular songs in collections on vinyl.
So really, it's a collectible.
Yes, it's a collectible. It's called Fun Favorites, and it's for people who have vinyl, and it's for people maybe who have vinyl who don't know me and want to hear all the best songs in one place. It's a little bit of a greatest hits, but not really, because it's going to be an ongoing series. So there's going to be Fun Favorites and Happy Hits and, Snappy Songs or whatever. We'll have a different title for each collection. So I'll probably put out one a year or something like that for a while.
All right.
Yeah.
I'd frame it, put it on a wall.
Yeah. There you go. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, I got on Facebook and I said I'm putting out vinyl, and just an avalanche of people were like, I can't wait, So I don't personally.
Pre-sell it.
I have a tiny little toy record player down there, but so I can technically play records, but they're not really my preferred format. But I gotta say, the record sounds really good. I did an A/B test at a friend's house who has a real stereo. Fun Favorites sounds really good. I can hear the difference. It's warmer, for sure. I was a little bit of a skeptic, but it's true.
Speaking of warm things, so you
Yes.
as a dad, 20-year-old and 17-year-old once again,
Yeah.
right? How does that work out? Like, what do you do with your kids when they're 20? How do you keep them motivated? What's your parenting style?
At this point, my parenting style is I've done the best I've done what I've had to do, kind of. I want to be available and on deck for any issues and supportive of their projects and their dreams. I mean, they have no shortage of ideas for what they want to do with their life. So I'm just trying to support that. Like, I've always imagined my whole life, like, one of my kids is probably going to go into music, and because of that, I'm not going to sell a bunch of this stuff that I have in storage. I'm going to keep it and then just give it to that kid. So I've been giving my son Augie, like,
Whoops.
pew, whip. I really am in a position now where I just am supporting their desires. Like, they're old enough and self-directed enough that they have things they want to accomplish and achieve, and I'm just trying to be supportive of that. So, the heavy lifting of being a parent is kind of over. They know how to walk and eat and talk. So that's kind of my main job was done. But, like, my son is into music, and I've always thought my whole life, like, I'm not going to get rid of that bass I'm not using anymore, or that, keyboard. I'm going to give it to whichever kid is into music. And so I'm heaping instruments on him to help him kind of experiment without stress of, spending all his money on instruments. And then my daughter is a super adventurer. She wants to graduate college and then wants to go on a NOLS course, National Outdoor Leadership School in Patagonia. So she's going to be in Patagonia in the wilderness for 90 days. And then she's going to go to Sweden and be an au pair and then go to Colorado College. And she's going to the South this coming semester to study civil rights. And she's been to London to perform in plays. And she's like a globetrotter. So really, it's just about supporting that stuff, you know, helping to pay for it and make time to, you know, get all the forms done and make sure she knows I'm happy that she's being adventurous.
And you told me of your amazing method to talk about subjects with kids.
Oh, right, yeah. In the car. You mean
Yes.
sensitive subjects
Oh, yes.
like, yeah, sex and drugs and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the car. The car is great because you have them captive, right? But you're not looking right at each other.
Yep.
You know, you get to kind of, and you just have to come out in plain language and say what you have to say. You know, like all the, you know, kind of trying to dance around the subject is not good. It just makes it torturous. Just say it. You know, like whatever your position is on those sensitive subjects, and it'll be over sooner if you just say it in plain language.
You mentioned Roderick on the Line, the podcast.
Oh, yeah. There's a podcast called Roderick on the Line, John Roderick and Merlin Mann. And that podcast has really helped me raise my kids. We've been listening to it in the car to and from school for years and years, and they are not shy about talking about those kinds of subjects, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and Hitler and World War II and music and all kinds of stuff, text, talk. So a lot of times we will listen to them. I'll pause the playback of the podcast and say, now, kids, what do you think of that? What do you think of what he just said? Or here's what I think. Or, you know, it'll start conversations about sensitive subjects. And it's really been helpful because John and Merlin are funny and they're smart and they have a great perspective on the world. And they, I think maybe a certain percentage of what they say is totally made up, but they do it with such confidence that's kind of appealing. Like they're compelling storytellers and great personalities. And I don't know, their voices are just good voices for teenagers to be exposed to. They're simple, plain talking, you know, common sense kind of stuff. I love them.
So now that you've had 20 years of your kid's life to look back on, I have a couple questions about that. And maybe one is, how does your life change when you become a dad?
How does it change? I think that the chemical reaction that happens when you fall in love is kind of similar. You know, I definitely noticed that some chemicals kicked in that allowed me to not sleep and be awake all night and then, you know, be awake all day for weeks and months at a time. So that was interesting. I guess, you know, you have to kind of be less selfish. You know, you have to, at least for me, I had to spend less time in my studio making music and more time doing family related activities and chores and stuff like that. And that was kind of tough. But again, the chemicals kick in, man. The way they smell, the way they look, you just go into a fugue state. I think.
For a lot of dads, and moms too, but I guess, yeah, parents in general, it's really hard to choose between professional career and kids.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, do you have any advice on that front?
I'd say if you have any second thoughts about having kids, do not have kids. Just don't do it. Because we got a lot of people in the world. We don't need a lot more people in the world. I decided to make 2 because I thought, you know what, I've struggled my whole life for self-awareness and to be a better person, and I know that Mary Lynn, who was my wife at the time, had the same impulse, and I just felt like we could make 2 really good people, and so I felt like I should do it. You know, I wasn't 100% sure that I should do it, but I just dove in and did it, and now I'm really glad I did. But I think if you have strong feelings for your career or strong feelings that you're not paternal or maternal naturally, or you don't daydream about having that, and yet you feel pressure from external forces to do it, I would not do it.
What's the role of a dad in marriage and in parenting?
Wow. That's like a book. What's the role of a dad in marriage and parenting? Well, you know, a lot of times the dad is sort of typecast as the fun parent, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking and I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm imagining that the experience of giving birth creates a kind of unflinching intimacy between a mother and a child that a father can't experience, and that makes the mom more protective or sort of cautious or kind of, unflinchingly kind of, I guess protective is the best word, to the point where they're willing to be unpleasant to the child to keep the child in line, or to teach the child what they needed to teach them. A little unpleasantness for a mother is not a big deal because they've given birth. That's an idea. I don't know if that's exactly right. But I feel like the father, a lot of times who's, not all the time, a lot of times the mother goes to work and the father's home. But the parent that has to go away and come back tends to be the fun one, and that sometimes tends to be the dad. And so a lot of dads struggle against the fun dad problem, where they come home from work, the mother has a whole system going, and dad comes in and like wakes the kid up or feeds him candy or does something because it's time for fun. It's time for, the circus to begin because dad's home. Right. And that creates crazy friction between the mom and the dad, resentment, especially on the mom's part, because, you come in and mess up my system. So I'd say the role of a dad is I would advise dads to be aware of that and to be respectful of the systems in place that the mother sets up, because, it's a hard job. It's a hard job for the one that stays home, whether it's the mother or the father. And then as far as a parent goes, I think it's important for a father to show kids the emotional depth. Men are taught to be strong and sort of emotionally shallow and like, machines in a way. I think sports are popular because it's a place where men can cry and be emotional and hug each other and touch each other and high five and, so I think showing emotional depth to a child as a man is very important, because you can get yourself in a lot of kind of unpleasant situations later in life if you don't have emotional depth or complexity, or aware of your own emotional depth and complexity, because then you don't have access to a whole menu of feelings that you might be feeling in a certain situation, where if you're feeling vulnerable as a grown-up man and you don't have access to that vocabulary, then you're going to do something bad. You're going to make bad choices. So
that's great. And if there was one takeaway about parenting that listeners should have for them, what would it be?
It would be to read the book Talk So Your Kids Will Listen and Listen So Your Kids Will Talk by Elaine Mazalish and Adele Faber. It's the most remarkable parenting book about language and empathy that I've ever seen. People say that kids don't come with an instruction manual, but I think this book is the closest thing. My wife and I used it when the kids were little. Like, we kept it by the phone book and would use it as a reference book for how to talk to them, how to be empathetic. Believe it or not, we have to kind of learn how to be empathetic. So I guess, yeah, I've done 3 book recommendations here in this podcast. So The Dip, The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up, Beep, and How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen and Listen So Your Kids Will Talk. I would say those 3 books are the takeaway.
And finally, if there was something people were to remember about you, what would you want it to be?
That I'm... something that people wanted to remember about me. I guess that I'm happily engaged in the struggle to be as self-aware as I possibly can and create as little friction in the world for people and as much joy as possible.
Caspar Babypants, the
That's
man
it.
who brings you joy.
On a silver platter.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun.
It's been rad.
It's been rad, Dad.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Goodbye.